back to another episode of Mission Control, the Bellwether Enterprise Podcast. The topic for this episode is diversity within the commercial real estate industry. According to a recent commercial property executive article on the topic, which quoted a 2017 study by the Bella Research Group and the Knight Foundation, more than 75% of all senior-level executives in the U.S. commercial real estate industry were white men, and only 2% of the nearly 900 real estate investment management firms were owned by minorities. Joining the podcast to talk about the state of diversity in the real estate industry and to discuss some things being done to increase industry diversity is Marcus Cole, the Director of Future Housing Leaders. Future Housing Leaders is a free Fannie Mae-led recruiting service that helps companies create a more diverse workforce. It focuses on connecting college students to potential paid internship and entry-level job opportunities with top employers in the housing industry. Without further ado, let's jump into the interview with Marcus Cole. Idea of how we can get maybe more awareness and go in depth a little bit more in the diversity aspect of commercial real estate and the industry as a whole. So I guess that's probably my first question. Like, what does the state of diversity in CRE look like today? And how has that maybe changed in recent years, in the past to today? Kind of how's that all shaping out from your perspective on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, in our data analysis, looking at the respective different functions of the housing industry as a whole, we haven't been able to pinpoint kind of the diversity aspect of CRE specifically, but we do have research and data that indicates where we are at a macro perspective, right? A macro sense being the entire housing industry, which obviously encompasses CRE. So in that case, it's roughly 28% diverse, right? And this is including single family, multifamily, commercial. It's really diverse. 28% 28% diverse. And if you double click within that 28%, what you will find is that roughly like 8% is Black, African American, a little bit over 9% is Hispanic, Latinx. And this is important. That number is important because if you look particularly in the CRE industry and from a multifamily rental perspective, the renters and the customers, our customers, are becoming more diverse. So looking at kind of who's driving that diversity and driving those renters, it's millennials and Generation Z, largest and most diverse generations in American history. So our goal through Future Housing Leaders is to help close that diversity gap in a sense that the workforce reflects the customers and residents that it serves.
A lot of it got me thinking about and doing research and finding different articles from recent past years and kind of looking at higher up level executives who are from diverse backgrounds, whether it be race or females could be thrown into that category as well of the lack of diversity, if you will. But it's it's expanding a little bit, but there's still a lot of room to grow, obviously. What would you say, or if you have any thoughts on kind of what has led to the state that we're in right now? Obviously, some of that is it's becoming more diverse and things like that, but there's still a gap. So is there anything specific, and whether that's lack of awareness or people not really knowing what the industry is about, so they really don't pursue it from a higher education standpoint? Like, I'm sure there's a ton of different things that kind of contribute to that, but kind of from a big picture, like, what do you say is like kind of leading reason and why we're not quite where we want to be in the category of like diversity within commercial real estate and real estate as a whole, I guess?
Sure. And a few parts of that question, right? I think, we recently ran a blog here by my boss and VP of the Office of Minority Women Inclusion here at Fannie Mae, Kenimu, who the purpose of the blog was to say if we do nothing as it relates to the diversity gap, it will take over 100 years, in fact 114 years, to close that diversity gap. And that's really important for all the things that you've stated, right? So I think a big part of the lack of diversity is, first and foremost, young people aren't aware of what the housing industry is, right? So looking at the housing industry, folks know that you can buy a home, you can sell a home, you can rent a home, but then to the extent a lot of young people are watching HGTV and they want to do what they see Chip and Joanna Gaines doing and the twins flipping houses and doing remodeling, but that's not housing finance in the sense of this $3 trillion industry. So what we're doing is trying to promote the industry as such, where students look at this industry as a career of choice. So that's one piece. I also think that, historically recruiting in the housing industry and CRE has been friends and families. It's almost like country club recruiting, right? It's like, well, my son has a friend and we want them to get internships, and that leads to other things. And I think what we're doing from a future housing leaders perspective is we're being very intentional about helping the industry realize that there are students that are interested, and that we will help promote and essentially market the industry on your behalf so you can get more diverse students in your pipeline. And that's really important. If there's more diverse students in the pipeline, in the funnel, then chances are, ideally, then those students will have opportunities to interview and be placed.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've kind of thought about a lot. Kind of to your point, it's almost like legacy hiring, or we have relationships with these three universities. They might, primarily through, the real commercial real estate tract within the college, be white males. Kind of talked a little bit about the goal of future housing leaders and kind of what you guys are doing. But I guess on that perspective specifically, like, what do you guys do to kind of raise awareness for, students, prospective students who might want to join the industry, or, might not really know a lot about it, but also if there's anything you guys educational wise to employers to showcase like more individuals who, could be good hires for their company?
Yeah, for sure. I love this question, Ryan. So we're doing a number of things, right? And I think from a college outreach perspective, I think what we've really taken pride in is building relationships with colleges and universities that have a high diversity index. So obviously, those colleges and universities reflect HBCUs, HSIs, women's colleges, things of that nature. But also, we are looking at the predominantly white institutions that just have a higher number of minority students. A great example that I like to use as it relates just to how we are trying to impact the industry in this front is the Atlanta metro region. We have a number of employer partners down in Atlanta, and historically, those employer partners have gotten all of their young talent from the University of Georgia. Great finance school, has a real estate program. Obviously, they're in the SEC, so they have got great brand recognition. But what we've done is when we're engaging with those employers, we say, look, we want you to continue to go to UGA. You've got great brand recognition there. You've established relationships. But what we can do on your behalf is we're going to go to Georgia State University, right? Not too far away in the heart of downtown Atlanta. And what we'll do at Georgia State is we'll market all of your career opportunities. And here's why we're doing that. Georgia State, one of the most diverse schools in the country. They also have a top finance school, also have a very renowned real estate program, and they have a ton of affinity groups that really support their young minority talent. So that's our approach there. So when we're on campus, what we do is we bring our employer partners with us, right? So we bring employer partners with us, and we'll pitch future housing leaders the importance, talk about the same data points that I just mentioned about the industry only being 28% diverse, and then making a pitch for them to be really compelled to join the industry or selected as a career of choice. Highlight the respective sectors and fields. But I think what we really get interested in is when we bring executives from our employer shops to schools, and then they can talk about their career path and how the fact that they didn't choose the housing industry chose them. So that's one of the things we do on college campuses. We currently have relationships with 24 colleges and universities. So that's that piece. In addition to our college and university engagement, we have a partnership model. I have a very small team. It's four, including myself, and we can't do this without being very strategic. Our partnership model allows us to engage with organizations who specifically their mission is to attract young minority students and give them job opportunities or career opportunities. For example, we have a great relationship with Management Leadership for Tomorrow. We've created a real estate vertical with them, a real estate finance vertical, where now we're working with students who are interested in pursuing a real estate degree, and we're helping them connect to our employer partners. We specialize events with them, and gives our employer partners first round access to them starting in July. So they'll have an opportunity to dive in. These are 50 students, and actually, we give them access to the entire cohort of the MLT pool, which is upwards of over 100 students. We have the same approach with the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, which gives us a presence of roughly 90% of the Hispanic serving institutions in the country. And we also have a relationship with the Mortgage Bankers Association, which helps us from an education front. They allow us to give students certification opportunities in um, commercial real estate 101 and single family finance 101. Students get a chance to take these certifications. They get a chance to build on their resume, all those things. And finally, we have a subscription service to a product called Ripple Match. And Ripple Match is amazing. Ripple Match allows us to, and this was really big for us in the virtual environment with COVID. We couldn't get on campus. I couldn't shake hands and give house shaped cookies. We had to do things differently, right? So we embarked on this relationship with Ripple Match. And Ripple Match is this unique tool where it's almost like Tinder for recruiting, right? So Ryan, if you have your criteria, you know you're looking for a student who's graduating in 2023. They've got a three. You're looking for a 3.2 GPA with a set of relevant coursework. We input that into Ripple Match, and the algorithm connects us with hundreds of students that are both non-diverse and diverse. It's a very inclusive and equitable resource that we use, and because of that, we've been able to really help because of all those, not just Ripple Match, but with the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, as well as MLT, we have been able to impact this approach across the entire country.
That's awesome. I also know you guys do some individual programmings with students, who are already on kind of the track of real estate and things like that. I know we had some interns here at Bellwether who participated in some Future Hires Are Leading programming. I guess if you can speak a little bit on, what you guys do on that front, and kind of what that's all about, programming wise.
Sure. So at a high level, Future Housing Leaders is a program that we started here at Fannie Mae, and it's aimed to promote diversity in the housing industry. In addition to the services, the recruiting services that we offer, and again, this is a free program. In addition to that, we do a summer program, and our summer program is absolutely amazing. We actually have over 600 interns and early professionals participating this summer in 2021. That's up from 278 last summer and 95 the previous summer. So we're continuing to make an impact with our summer programming. And here's what's great about the summer programming, right? We offer the following. We have a weekly series of executive speaking engagements. I just finished facilitating one, and our highlight today was how to be more familiar with capital markets. And we did some things in terms with capital market staff at Fannie Mae. So we do that on a weekly basis for 10 weeks. So let me take a step back. Our summer program is a 10-week long program that supports the respective company's internship program. So it's essentially an on-top service that we provide. So we have executive speaker series that happen on a weekly basis. We also have certification opportunities through the Mortgage Bankers Association in commercial and single family. And we also have a data science piece, which has been huge because of the role that technology is playing in the market these days. So through that data science component, which I believe a number of students at Bellwether are actually taking, it is an opportunity for students to use Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac pool talk data and actually model data based off of real life scenarios, repayment speeds, so forth and so on. In addition to that, all students get access to Fannie Mae University. I've been at Fannie Mae for 11 years. This is a great service that we provide to full-time employees. It allows us to get an understanding of foundational skills like, executive presence and how to run a meeting and agenda planning, things like that as a early career professional you may not have known. In addition, it allows you to get more advanced, like you can dive into the actual technical fields of capital markets and understanding the loan processing system on both the single family side and the multifamily side. We also have a networking component where we have a LinkedIn page and students are encouraged to connect on a regular basis. We post things like articles about the industry and help students really become acquainted with each other.
Awesome. I guess last question is summing everything up in a way, all these things we're talking about, a big push and goal to increase diversity within the industry. When you talk about that in a big picture, why is this important? What's the value of that increased diversity? And, how can all these efforts that we're discussing work as a whole to kind of get to that goal of there to be more diversity, I guess?
Sure. I mean, I think, in any field, right, diversity is important, and there's plenty of studies that highlight the impact to a company's bottom line because they have a more diverse staff. I think some stats, I believe that McKinsey published a number of things that said, if you have a more diverse executive team, you're going to, be a much more profitable company. I've seen other studies that said if you have more women on the executive team, you're going to be a more profitable company. So from a business perspective, this has always made sense. In the housing industry specifically, and this is a point that I touched on earlier, it's important to note that the residents and the owners are changing, right? I mean, millennials, Generation Z, largest and most diverse in American history. That's not going to change. And quite frankly, it's much easier to do business with a workforce that reflects in some capacity your customers, and in this case, your residents and so forth. So, and what does that really mean? That means that as a person running a business, I need to be ahead of the thought process of my customers. I need to be able to anticipate their needs. I need to be able to market to them and understand certain nuances. So that's why it's important from a CRE resident perspective, from a customer perspective. And I think from a business perspective, it is truly, you're going to reap the benefits of the financial benefits of having a more diverse staff because you're going to get different perspectives. We are doing something here at Fannie Mae where we're doing courageous conversations and encouraging people to bring their whole selves to work and really stepping into and not being ashamed of who they are and being able to drive that in meetings and business decisions is truly important to the success of not only Fannie Mae, but the industry.
Yeah, definitely agree. That's all I got for you today. Appreciate you stepping on this podcast with me and sharing your insight. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
To learn more about Future Housing Leaders and all that they do, including the talent networks partnering employers have access to and the on-campus events students are participating in at partnering colleges and universities across the country, please visit futurehousingleaders.com. A special thanks goes out to Marcus Cole and Fannie Mae for being a part of this episode. If you found this podcast interesting, please feel free to subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. And the video version of the podcast can be viewed on the Bellwether Enterprise YouTube channel. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Ryan Dentscheff, and this was Mission Control, the Bellwether Enterprise Podcast.